Hi everyone, I keep getting a lot of questions about what to do with the Tal Rasha Meteor lag. I guess everyone who has been playing Wizard this season has experienced this to some degree. I already talked about this in my build guide for Tal Rasha Meteor, that it is a quite laggy build and there's not all that much you can do about it, so you can't avoid it in all situations. But there are definitely some things you can do to help improve it, and also some things that people are doing that I know are not really what you should be doing. So let's get into it. So number one, you need to know that especially on the EU side, the servers are relatively laggy these days because the season is fresh and there are a lot more people than usual playing the season as well. So in general, the servers are pretty bad, especially during the prime time hours, and there's nothing you can do about that. So you can try to avoid playing in the early evening and at least maybe do something that is not like high GR pushing or something like that, and then try to move any kind of group play, any kind of pushing to the later hours or earlier hours. Especially when you team up with others, the lag and the calculations that the game needs to produce are amplified a lot more. So in solo, you might be completely fine playing, at least when you're not like doing high GRs or so. But then the more players you add to the team, the worse it becomes, because there's, more stuff going on, there's more people, there are other effects, and everything needs to be like synced with everyone. So going from solo to group also makes the lag a lot worse. And if you look at the 4-man leaderboards, you can see that most of the top end clears are actually done in the middle of the night. You see this here, this is 3 AM, this is 4 AM, this is 6 AM in the morning, here's 1 AM. So you see that most of these are actually done like in off primetime hours for the reasons I mentioned. So people try to stay up long or get up early or something like that. And obviously I understand that not everyone can do that, but this is how it is. Number two, what you need to know about the lags is that most of it actually comes from the ground dot. So each of these meteor impacts actually produces this ground effect. And in the case of the cold meteor, it also produces this chilling effect, which I believe also contributes a bit more than, for example, the arcane meteor. So arcane just has a ground dot, but it's mostly those damage over time effects that produce a lot of lag in this game. There's also area damage involved, which combines with this damage over time effect. So area damage, most people know, is relatively laggy because the more monsters you have, the more you produce those area damage explosions, so to say, the more calculations there are, and it just scales exponentially with the amount of targets. So that it just becomes laggier and laggier for even adding a few more monsters to a single pull. Now, despite Tal Rasha Meteor being a very, very powerful build, you don't really have the luxury to just go with zero area damage. So you need area damage to clear the higher tiers. That's just how the game works. You need the damage. Like if you don't have air damage, you're gonna lose like 5 to 10 GRs in groups, probably more, in raw DPS basically. So yeah, if you're like really desperate, you could consider that, especially for speed farming. But if it comes to pushing, there is no way you're gonna go without air damage. And also to clear this up, if you have any air damage above 0, it doesn't matter how much you have. So it's either 0 or more than 0. Because the calculations need to happen anyway, and the number of the damage and the number of the area damage does not matter at all. People always think that because of this insane power creep and the quadrillions of damage and stuff like that, the game becomes more laggy, but this is actually not true. So this has like maybe a very, very tiny impact. The real reason is the number of calculations and not the size of the numbers. So yeah, size doesn't matter actually. So keep that in mind. You can go 0 area damage or you can go more than 0, and in the case of Tal Rasha Wizard, there is no way you want to remove your area damage. It's like the best stat by far for this build, and it's just going to be like omega scuffed if you don't have any. Although your support players in a team at least, they should definitely go with 0 area damage because there's no point in it having them. Next thing you can do is the black hole. So a lot of Tal Rasha builds include this for extra damage or as an extra elemental buff. And it's a very useful tool to group up enemies and then blast them down from a distance. So that's usually what I want to do. You have a pack, you pull them together, and then you throw your meteors in there. But the black hole skill itself is also contributing to lag a lot and can easily disconnect you. So this actually happened to me a few times as well. So you're going to be very careful with this on hardcore especially. But this kind of like perma knockback effect that happens from the black hole, this also produces a lot of calculations. A lot of like, these physics calculations. And on top of the ground dots, this also produces a lot of lags and can easily crash your game. So when there's like a very large pull, you want to be quite careful of this. It doesn't really matter when there's only a few enemies, up to like 10, 15 or something like that, but if it's more than this, even though you can potentially get a juicy damage buff from using the black hole with the absolute zero or the spell steal runes, you gotta be careful and not overdo it, because this skill alone can just terminate your game. One thing that people also do is the so-called escape gaming. So when you attack and you notice that the game starts delaying and starts lagging, you can press escape to try to let it catch up a little bit with the calculations. So most of the time this will decrease your DPS because you cannot attack while you're waiting for the game to resolve, if the lag is like a few seconds. But it will maybe help you to not DC or to just like survive, because instead of lagging out for like half a minute, you can reduce it to only a few seconds. This does work most of the time, at least when the lag is based on the damage you deal and the area damage, etc. It does not always work, for example, in terms of server lags. Sometimes the server itself just lags out and everyone gets delayed for a few seconds, and there's not really anything you can do about that. So you have to try to distinguish the two things, one caused by your actions and one caused by the server itself. But in some cases, it can help you out to try to press escape like this. And whenever it's like a very laggy, very large pull or something like that. One thing to pay attention to when you're doing a run is also what you're actually fighting. So especially the monster types. Some monster types are simply like way more dense. They have a lot more targets. These targets are also sometimes larger or smaller, so they can stack up better for area damage. So you gotta be a bit careful of what you're up against. And also the elite packs. So you see this here, for example, there is an illusionist pack. Illusionist packs produce extra targets when they split in the middle of the pull, and those also sometimes clip into the collision boxes of other enemies, so that you have this area damage effect again. And also the illusionist spreading just by itself actually produces a bit of lag. So most of the time you don't notice this because the game just runs smooth anyway, but especially on a large pull, having the sudden burst of extra targets can make you lag out very easily. So pay attention to illusionist packs. And the same goes for health link. So health link makes the enemy's HP bar sink all the time and the damage they take. So all these damage calculations on health link packs get multiplied by the amount of like health link targets in this pack. So this can also easily make you lag out when you have the ground dots, area damage, etc. all stacked up. That doesn't mean you have to necessarily skip those packs when you fight them, but it means you need to pay attention that when you have them, you have to not overpull, and you have to like coordinate, especially in a team, about when to nuke them down, where to pull them, and these kind of things. And then you can play around that a little bit. Unfortunately, I don't have any group play footage on my hands right now that I could show you, but some things to consider for group play is also you can nuke around the convention cycle. So when you're playing Arcane Meteor, for example, you have the Arcane convention cycle, and this is when you do most of your burst damage. So especially in large pulls, you want to try to play around this to not lag out. Because if you do like a sudden big burst of damage, the game might lag out for a few seconds, but then after most of the little stuff has died, the game it resolves the calculations and you can carry on without lagging out for like a minute or so. So in this case, for example, when you have a support bar, you can ground stomp enemies together for big area damage value, and you nuke exactly on the arcane cycle, then most of the time you will end up fine. But obviously this is a bit risky and it can still lag you out if this is not completely like cleaning up the entire pool. But with the power of the Meteor Wizard, especially now that the season's already out for a little while, people are geared up and have some paragons, doing these even 150s and just destroying entire packs of enemies is not really such a big deal anymore. So if you play around this a little bit in those very dense rifts, you can make it work. And on the higher end, you see that people are already doing like sub 2 minute 150 runs, and they use focus and restraint. So this allows them to actually not play convention cycles and just have permanent, really high damage. So you can make pulls and destroy them and move on. And basically the barbs just run ahead, prepare a little pull, and they get blasted by those wizards. And obviously it works well for them because these guys are way ahead of everyone else and they have high paragons and a really strong wizard and these kind of things. So if you are lower paragon, this doesn't work as well, and the convention cycle is more the thing you need to play around. One other thing I want to highlight here is the toxin gem. So in parties you usually have 2 supports and you have 2 of these gems, but you only really need one of them in my opinion. So if it's a laggy night, you can remove one of them to remove this dot effect from even more enemies. So this 10% increased damage taken is only like an additive damage buff, which in parties contributes something like maybe 2 or 3% DPS, and this 10% less damage done doesn't stack. So having 2 of these gems in a party is not really all that relevant. It's just like a few percent DPS basically. I can easily drop one of them to make it a little bit better. And finally, I also want to highlight that we have this lag mechanics post here by Northard, which we published recently. You can find it here or also in the description. And that goes into a bit more detail of what I just explained, and with a bit more generic explanations and also some more examples and how to play around lags, what to do, etc. And also a bunch of notoriously laggy builds listed here. So for everyone who experiences a lot of issues, this might be helpful to read up on. Lag has been a problem ever since, vanilla basically. And it has gotten sometimes better, sometimes worse. And well, these days it also just depends on the build a little bit. Some builds are laggy and some builds are not. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this video and I could help you with this a little bit. And I wish you good luck with the remaining Season 28 and with your wizards. So, hope you like this one and see you guys next time.